This is a side to Eleanor Williams that hasn't been seen. Joyful. Playful. Happy. This is what she became known for. The battered and drugged teenager who claimed on Facebook she was the victim of an Asian grooming gang.
You all right?
It was all proven to be a lie. She was jailed for faking it and trying to frame innocent men.
She shows no significant sign of remorse, even continuing to profess the truth of her allegations.
There's no winners here today. I feel no sense of triumph, only sadness.
But the town famous for a fake grooming scandal had a secret that until recently wasn't known. There were Asian men grooming girls in Barrow-In-Furness.
I'd say roughly 20, 30 girls I'd seen coming and going, and they were all underage.
And we can show how it links to Eleanor Williams's claims.
The evidence is there that she was naming him, and I was flagging that she was naming him a long time before she was charged.
And for the first time, we can reveal the contents of Eleanor Williams's diary in the months leading up to her infamous Facebook post. And how the man falsely accused by Eleanor discovered someone close to him was also lying.
I don't class them as human. You've had that person with you for so many years and they just lied to you.
In what was already a murky story, there is a new twist. Alison, just say your full name for me, please.
Alison Johnston. I'm Ellie's mum. So I'd reported Ellie missing. The police had come out, they'd asked me all the questions that they ask. As the police were leaving the property, some neighbours came past and said, there's a young girl up there in the field looking very distressed, she's bleeding, or seems to have a head injury.
Stop and chat, what's gone on? What's happened there?
Nothing.
This was the beginning of one of the most extraordinary legal cases ever seen in the British courts.
She gets found, her fingers being cut, her ears being cut. She's got horrific facial injuries.
It was after she was found here, battered and bruised, that Eleanor Williams decided to go on Facebook with her story. Talk to me about the Facebook post, because you helped Ellie write that post.
She was crying, she was sat in a bedroom absolutely in tears. She said, I had enough, I don't know what to do. The police aren't listening to me. She said the only way I can think of it stopping is if I put it out and people know what's going on. And then within the next hour, police were at the door and arrested her.
If you just listen to my colleague, she's just going to have to read some off a bit of paper. All right.
Right. So you're under arrest for being in Britain.
Eleanor was arrested for perverting the course of justice. But what the people of Barrow couldn't understand was why the police weren't arresting the men who, according to her Facebook post, had raped and beaten her, as by now her story had gone viral. Protests erupted. Locals wanted justice for Ellie. Asian men were targeted in more than 80 hate-related crimes. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Jason.
Local businessman Mo Rami wasn't named in the Facebook post, but people seemed to know Eleanor had named him to the police.
We had threats, people were going to burn the shops down, burn us down. You know, it was that right. It's not the type of persecution that goes on today. Believe it or not, it came to a point. I did not leave the house for about 3 years.
Then at Preston Crown Court, the case against Eleanor Williams was made clear that she'd faked evidence in an attempt to implicate the men. CCTV showed she'd stayed alone all night at a hotel in Blackpool when she'd claimed she'd been trafficked and raped in various properties around the town. But what about her injuries? She even raised the question herself in a police interview.
I don't get these bruises for no reason, you know. You can see by the state of my face.
I can see you've got bruises. My concern is now, how did you get those bruises?
Oh, how? You tell me.
Self-inflicted?
Are you having a laugh?
CCTV showed she had bought a hammer in Tesco which seemed to match the one found in the field where she'd been picked up by the police with her injuries. Only her DNA was on it. Despite her Facebook post that her abusers were Asian, the prosecution showed that she had made false allegations against 4 white men. But the central victim she'd wrongly accused of organising a sex trafficking ring was Asian businessman Mo Rami.
I'm not sure how my family and I are going to recover from this. The mud sticks, and I fear it may take some time.
Eleanor was jailed for 8.5 years, and Barrow was ready to move on. But there was one group of young women who were unable to. They'd been sitting on a secret for many years and were waiting for their day in court.
Barrow got branded to be a lying town. It's not. Grooming was happening here. Still probably is.
Elizabeth was a witness in the trial, which, after long delays, also took place at Preston Crown Court. One of the accused men had tried to stop her giving evidence.
He'd turned around and said, I know the police have asked you about the girls. If you say anything, and then basically, yeah, he's going to set my house on fire with me, the other half, and the baby that was in my stomach. He said he would make sure that baby wouldn't come out of my stomach alive.
The defendants in the case, 3 brothers, Shaha Amran Mir, Shah Joman Mir and Shaha Alman Mir, accused between them of 62 counts of sexual offences and acts of intimidation against underage girls, some as young as 7, in Leeds and Barrow-In-Furness. The 3 of them worked at a takeaway in Barrow called Aisha's, now under different ownership. But back in 2008, there was a flat above the shop.
It was dark, it was dingy. If anything, it looked like a crack house. There was a load of mattresses on the floor, sheets up at the windows.
Elizabeth, who doesn't want us to use her surname, was around 19 at the time when her boyfriend worked at the takeaway. She noticed a string of girls aged around 13 or 14 coming in. She describes so-called parties where the girls were given alcohol and paired up with men who'd often come from out of town.
More men came down from Leeds. I know they'd come down for one thing, and that was for sex with girls, because that's what they were looking for.
One of the men, Shah Joman Mir, known as Sarge, frequently took a schoolgirl to this hotel for sex late at night after the receptionist had gone home. In court, the victim, who was just 13 when it began, says she still has nightmares where she can see his face. Elizabeth told the court the eldest brother, Amran, known as Jay, was a drug dealer, and they inhabited a brutal world.
My partner, at the time, got told if he didn't pay his debt, I never fell behind on paying, it'd be me that would pay, and not with money. Meaning that they would rape me or beat me up.
The brothers were found guilty of all 62 charges, including multiple rapes of children, intimidation and kidnap. Sarge and Jay were given life sentences. The judge described them as highly dangerous, with significant risk of reoffending. The brothers were not on trial for any drug offences. Their crimes spanned from 1996 to 2010. But what were they doing in the 10 years before they were charged in 2020? Well, a lot of that time, Sarge was working for Mo Rami.
He seemed like a popular person in the town. Everybody knew him. Nobody said anything bad about him then. There was no rumours about him.
In 2018, police spoke to Mo Rami about Sarge over allegations unconnected to the recent case. But he insists they told him Sarge was not a threat to children and suggested he carry out a DBS check. And he defended Sarge on social media. Only recently, when the grim reality was revealed in court about Sarge's historical offences, did Mo have to come to terms with who he was.
At that point, I felt disgusted. You put myself in danger, you put my children in danger. My 15-year-old son used to go on the ice cream van with him. You brought this trouble to my house.
Has the Mia case dragged it up for you? I mean, are people saying, oh, well, there was a grooming gang, clearly...
I know the gang, the definition says 3 or more makes a gang. But when you have 3 brothers, that's not a gang.
Another girl also made allegations against Sarge, but knew him under a different name, Ali G. Sarah, not her real name, lives in Hull, and Sky News has followed her case for a number of years, finding evidence that helped reopen it after it had been wound down by Humberside police. She says during a period when Sarge worked at a restaurant in the city, she was groomed and sold for sex from the age of 13 at this block of flats.
I said no to them. I didn't want to have sex with them. And as a punishment, they'd chain me to a radiator naked and all stood around me, like doing things to themselves and like taking it in turns to like punch me or hurt me while they were doing it.
Can I show you a picture of him?
Yeah.
This is the police mugshot. I just wanted to see if that's who we're talking about.
Yeah. Big nose. That's him. He would send me in a room with multiple different men in the same day, and he would earn money from that, and he was profiting from young girls being raped.
Does it make you feel like, you know, in any way vindicated for coming forward, or do you feel actually frustrated that you haven't had justice?
I'm really, really glad for the victims he's been convicted for, that he has been convicted, because he's not just an abuser, he's a ringleader and he's an organiser and he knows what he's doing. It's calculated. This will give me peace. That's one less man that I'd have to walk down the street and look over my shoulder at.
But there is someone else who claimed Sarge was abusing them months before he was charged.
Monday the 21st of October 2019. Had Snapchats from Zed saying Sarge needs me in Blackburn tomorrow. Said I had to get the train to Preston because they didn't know for definite where Sarge wanted me.
You okay? Have you taken something? Sit down. Sit down for me. Sit down.
By the time the police walked into Eleanor Williams' flat in July 2019...
What's happened? What have you had?
She had been going missing over many months, turning up injured and apparently drugged. The brutality of her injuries and the sheer volume of them is hard to take in. That she caused these to herself, even more difficult to comprehend. So what was going on in Eleanor Williams' mind at this time?
I hate it. I hate them. I hate myself for keep on putting myself in the same.
Eleanor was keeping a diary, and in it was a man called Sarge.
I was too late. So Zed and Sarge were off with me. Sarge will be fuming with me for ignoring everyone. I went to Lancaster and met Sarge. He gave me a lift back to Barrow.
Eleanor was convicted of lying about 5 men, but we can reveal that other names were brought up in evidence during her trial as people she'd claimed were involved in her abuse. These included Sarge and his brother Jay. We're using the letter Z to replace other names. Jay is not in her diary, but Sarge is regularly mentioned. He's someone she doesn't want to anger.
Tuesday the 29th of October 2019. Was watching out my bedroom window and the car must have circled about 3 times. I got into bed and laid in the dark in silence. Had Zed telling me not to Sarge off. Zed saying I'm not to lose money. Had Zed knocking at 12:30, 1, 2 a.m. I didn't answer any of them. I felt cold, tired and ill. So I'll just deal with the consequences of no and ignoring them when it comes to it.
It could all be part of the fabrication. We know Eleanor Williams faked letters, and the judge said diaries were too. We've evidence, though, that this diary was written around the time it is dated, mostly while she was living alone in this street in Barrow Island, and it tells of controlling and violent men who even keep tabs on her rota at the railway pub where she worked.
It's always seemed to be that staring was enough for her to terrify her. They would all be outside and looking in the windows of the pub at her. Though at no other time than if she was there would they be doing that. One time 6 or 7 of them came into the pub and walked up and down. She had seen them and run out the back crying, and I threw them out. In the end, me and one of the door staff.
You felt like they were being intimidated?
They definitely were. They wouldn't speak, apart from when I said I'm kicking you out.
Had they tried to order drinks? Or?
No, they were just looking.
Her sister also recorded threatening Snapchat messages being sent to Ellie's phone, images of knives, even a gun. And she witnessed her struggling with a man.
Ellie was actually coming home that night with me. He grabbed her outside of the takeaway, started pulling her arm. He was like, come on, we're going.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
So you saw someone grab her?
Yeah, and she was like, no, I'm going with my sister. And his face, he was so angry with her. She did come home with me. And then the next weekend, she came back black and blue, like worse than we'd ever seen.
The same man is mentioned 36 times in Eleanor's diary. We'll call him C.
I had C knocking on my door. I answered it and he came in with Z and he hit me and said I disappointed him and let him down. They beat me.
Two years later, this man, C, broke into a woman's house and sexually assaulted her and was later jailed. Another coincidence? We've seen an email from Ellie's mum, Alison, warning the police about C and also telling them about Sarge.
The evidence is there that she was naming him, and I was flagging that she was naming him a long time before she was charged. Why do they believe other girls and not believe Ellie?
Do you think Sarge abused Ellie?
Yeah, I do. Why would she name him otherwise?
Well, she's named other people who she's been found guilty of perverting the course of justice about, so...
It doesn't mean to say that she's wrong about it all, though.
Cumbria Police have declined our request for an interview about the Sarge case, but we did raise it back in 2023 in an interview with the investigating officer in the Ellie Williams case.
It would be foolish of me to sit here and say there's no grooming gangs because, of course, sometimes, victims come forward years later and give an account.
Well, isn't there a trial coming up for someone who's done all of this sort of thing quite soon?
Not in the most recent past, they haven't.
Right.
I know what you're referring to.
You know what I'm referring to, yeah.
I know what you're referring to, and it isn't a recent case. It's quite historic in nature.
Right, okay. If you know what I'm referring to, then does it concern you that that was one of the people that was talked about in court with Ellie Williams?
Well, again, all I can keep referring you back to is that every instance and every person and every event was thoroughly investigated over a long period of time, and there's no evidence of any grooming in respect of Eleanor Williams.
But Elizabeth, who helped convict Sarge and his brothers, says Eleanor naming him is significant.
Honest to God, I didn't. If I'd have known she'd named, I would have went to the police personally myself and said, why are you calling this girl a liar? I would have made sure I kicked up a fuss about it.
Sarah in Hull also feels Sarge's conviction is relevant to the Williams case.
I think it should have been taken into account that he does exist. He is a guy that has abused people, and that could have been taken to Ellie Williams' case and looked at.
You think the jury should have known about that?
Yeah, oh definitely. I think they should have known about that.
The thing about Eleanor's diary is while it may or may not be fiction, there is some supporting evidence that something was going on. For the Sky News podcast Unreliable Witness, we revealed this psychiatric report, which in it included a medical professional who did not believe that her injuries were self-inflicted. The forensic psychologist concluded that she was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and was likely to have been the victim of child sexual exploitation. We've seen social services reports revealing intimate injuries and obvious signs of drug taking, even though the police say she was often pretending to be on drugs. But the thing about the diary that's hard to ignore is that she is naming men who go on to be convicted of offences against other women and girls. Cumbria Police told us all allegations by Ellie Williams and her family were investigated thoroughly and there was no evidence of any involvement by the Mere brothers. They say allegations were proved to be lies with evidence fabricated in an attempt to support those lies, resulting in convictions for multiple offences of perverting the course of justice. They say the successful conviction of the Mere brothers shows how seriously they take offences of this nature, and they encourage any victims to come forward. Despite Eleanor naming a man now known as a dangerous sex offender, Alison has no expectation that her daughter's allegations against him will be revisited.
Who would believe her now anyway? And that's the problem she's got, isn't it? Like, she's been found guilty of perverting the course of justice, which is ultimately lying. So if she went back to court in terms of other men, would they just knock her down and say, well, you've lied, you've lied about that, so you're lying about this?
Mo Rami says if Eleanor Williams had been telling the truth about Sarge, then why would she have dragged innocent men like him into it?
Why would you fabricate other people in it? Why would you fabricate the whole story and let this one horrible, filthy beast walk the streets?
The counter-argument is, if there was that guy out there and he was of that mindset, and he was, someone who's done this in the past for 14 years, there's a good chance that he's carrying on doing it to someone.
100% it is.
Do you know what I mean?
That does rationally make sense.
Yeah, he didn't just stop in 2010 until he got convicted in 2020.
2020, yeah.
There's 10 years there.
Yeah.
You go, well, what happened in that period? Did he just stop?
Yeah,
are there any other victims?
True.
So you go, we don't know.
Do I want to believe Ellie Williams could be telling the truth here on Sarge? I can't see anywhere how I could believe that girl.
We can't know what was really going on in her head, but we do now know what she was writing in the months leading up to her infamous Facebook post of May 2020.
Thursday the 17th of October 2019. It's hard. They all think I'm a liar, that I'm crazy, that I'm evil and a druggie. They all think that I self-harm. I wish I could explain everything, but what's the point when they just say I'm lying? Starting to think there's legit no point in defending myself or explaining. I'll let whoever think whatever and need to be okay with my situation.
Eleanor Williams has now been released from prison, but has not returned to Barrow. She did lie about events, and a jury found she had fabricated evidence. But we now know there were other liars in the town, with other secrets.